Hey guys, don't forget, subscribe, like the channel, hit the bell icon, get the highlights all the time, quickest. You know what to do. Hit that button. It says subscribe. Peace. Good day, guys, gals, and everything in between. Welcome to day 10 for the search of the two bastards, for lack of a better word. Anyways, hope you all doing all right. I was gonna come up with a day 9 video, but I figured, you know what, nothing much really happening as far as updates go, so I will resume it today with comments, suggestions, opinions of not just myself but other people on forums, and see what new things maybe somebody has, if they have any kind of opinions that might help out. Of course, I want all you guys, gals, and everything in between to comment as well. Give me your thoughts, opinions, suggestions. I will try to update it again, hopefully in the next couple of days if there is anything new. But for now, I'm going to read you the comments of people. But before that, I would appreciate if you guys do subscribe to the channel. I am trying to provide content as best as I can. I would appreciate if you guys do subscribe, hit the like button, hit also the bell notification icon. It'll give you guys the update as soon as I do post a new video. I will continue to provide info on this case. I'm thinking of also providing info on other cases as well, not just this one. Let me know what you guys think about that as well. But for now, let's go on with this one and see what's new. These are about 3 pages worth of comments, so let's get started. Kevin Sanchez said maybe they robbed the van and folks were already dead, and they were driving by the dead body of Dick and grabbed his truck. If they didn't run and hide, their defense lawyer could have used those exact maybe they arguments in court. Now they also have to invent equally offensive reasons for their burning the red truck, not coming forward despite public pleas, running like guilty fugitives, burning the stolen gray SUV, hiding for weeks, etc. Captain Sanchez said previously, I don't know what happened and we'll wait for more facts to come out before forming an opinion. The RCMP gets things wrong all the time and I don't have much confidence in them. Maybe they robbed the van and folk were already dead, and they were driving by the dead body of Dick and grabbed his truck. If you believe they made it from northern Manitoba to Ontario in 2 days without a car, then why can't you believe my more realistic scenario? Right, they just happen to come across 3 murdered people. They just have the worst luck, those silly boys. Up until recently, the only people who spent life in prison were people designated dangerous offenders. That requires a special hearing. In the past, the max for first-degree murder was 25 years before parole eligibility, even if there was more than one victim. Consecutive sentencing was recently introduced, so now people can be sentenced to 25 years times 2 before parole eligibility. Typical sentence for second-degree murder, especially domestic, is 10 years. It all depends on the circumstances. Reply. A few supplementary thoughts. A life sentence is a life sentence, and a date of parole eligibility is just that, a date on which you may be eligible for parole. Many will never get out and will serve their full life sentences. Clifford Olson was never getting out. Robert Pickton is never getting out. Paul Bernardo, etc. Those people and many others less known will die in prison because their crimes were too heinous, and they will never be considered dangerous. So we'll continue to give them parole hearings as required, turn them down for parole ad infinitum, until their natural lives are over. Life sentence. Dangerous offenders are not automatically in jail for life, though an indeterminate sentence can and usually does have that result. It is difficult but not impossible to be granted parole as a dangerous offender. Many people are initially surprised by the fact that DO status cannot be applied to murder convictions, or treason for that matter, because who is more dangerous than a murderer? But it makes sense when you consider that a life sentence for first or second degree murder doesn't require any additional mechanism to keep somebody behind bars for life. You just never grant them parole. DO status is for criminals whose crimes of violence, sexual assault may not qualify for a life sentence but are too dangerous or habitual to be let out. As you noted, Judges now have the discretion to stack periods of parole eligibility for multiple murder convictions. It's not limited to 2. We've already had at least 3 offenders who have 25 times 3 for 75 years before being eligible to apply for parole. Thus far, judges have not given out sentences that would be expected to far exceed the natural lives of the convicted. For example, Bruce MacArthur was convicted of 8 murders, but has parole eligibility after 25 years because he's already old. He will never be let out. Dylan Millard committed 3 murders and can't apply for parole for 75 years. His cases are under appeal, but it's a good bet he will never be let out either. Judges have a lot of discretion here, and have used it. The law is so new that precedent is still fairly scant. So long story short, the answer to the original post question is there is no LWOP, life without parole, equivalent to the U.S., but there is effective life without parole. Never grant parole to somebody with a life sentence. Never grant parole to somebody with dangerous offender status, even though their crimes may not carry a life sentence. For people convicted of multiple murders, stack the periods of parole eligibility such that they will effectively be in jail for life without a chance of parole until they are very old, and then deny it if they make it that far. Sorry for the long post. Let's read this one here. Otto said, they need probable cause to lay charges. As suspects, they can be brought in for questioning and kept for a long time. It is not a right to have a lawyer in the room during questioning prior to arrest. They can refuse to speak, but they can't refuse to listen. So officers can continue to talk and pose questions while the suspect chooses to remain silent. A single murder charge is sufficient for arrest. After the arrest, more charges will be laid. They aren't necessary right now. That's in the U.S. What is Canada's version of the Miranda decision? Or do they have a law? I respectfully disagree. I have never ever seen a defense successfully use a delay in charges to win an acquittal. The only thing that will be relevant is what the evidence shows, not when the two were charged. People get charged and convicted decades after a murder with no problems. Not to win an acquittal. Yes, people get convicted late, but in this case, and this case only, it could become a sticking point. Maybe I'm jaded by OJ, but minor issues involving police became major ones due to the general attitude that the public developed during the trial. People can also develop attitudes during manhunts. Reasonable doubt can be deposited in many ways. If there really is scant evidence, and there may be no DNA, there may be no traceable weapon, only the fact that the pair were on the same highway and later committed a crime with an apparently different MO. And then, on top of that, the RCMP have not shown that there's enough on them for charges. It will mean a more drawn-out trial. At some point, drawn-out trials can be an issue. By the way, I don't know anything about Canadian juries. Do they have to be unanimous? I understand what you're saying, but they should just let these boys go. We have no actual evidence, just a series of weird coincidences and no need to get military involved for 2 gamer E-boys. The North serves justice on its own. There's a reason they trusted Bear Patrol over RCMP. The cops don't understand the reserves. Misty Water says, you can't be serious. If they didn't run and hide, their defense lawyers could have used the exact maybe they arguments in court. Now they also have to invent equally offensive reasons for their burning the red truck, not coming forward despite public pleas, running like guilty fugitives, burning the stolen gray SUV, hiding for weeks, etc. Some crazy escape camp patient set fire to it? Yeah, okay. Just a couple of comments back and forth. Let's see what this guy said, and then there will be a reply to this one. Yes, and while law enforcement apparently has been taught that keeping silent about facts is the way to go to avoid jury pollution, there is no winning here. The defense will use the gap in time to their advantage. You mean you still weren't certain, even X days later, that these two did the crime? Power stuff when juries hear it. And then there's a public confidence in law enforcement and whether they'll be forthcoming with tips in future. Just saying, we still want your tips isn't the same as engaging the public in the task of hunting perps down. If everyone knew, for example, that there was evidence that K and B, two bastards in other words, were once armed with a rifle and that they fired that rifle at or near the van or at the actual victims, they would engage more in helping law enforcement. Canadian courts are not like USA courts. For example, North Carolina courts can spend a week dragging a man's character through the mud before presenting evidence. Example of Jason Young, Brad Cooper. In Florida, all evidence is all over the news well before trial, and defense lawyers can act like Casey Anthony's lawyer. None of that is allowed in Canadian courts. Have faith. Reply to that one is, problem is, in this case, it is probably going to be demanded by the public because there is so much attention to it. So if they don't release something now, it could look really bad for them later. Again, no idea what they could release that would actually help at this point, but I do think they might be digging themselves a bit of a hole, so to speak. Yes, the law is similar to Miranda. The jury would have to be unanimous in a verdict of guilty. Because the type of people I believe these two to be loner murderers, I don't have the strength or mind character to be actual soldiers, or work at Walmart for long either, in my opinion. There can be other reasons the Crown will hold back more charges, the biggest being once they're in custody, the Crown can ask for time before they get any kind of bail hearing due to possible pending charges. They have the one charge laid. That's all they need for now. You know, the thing is, people are talking like they're going to get caught, they're going to this, they're going to that. But the fact remains, they might not even be alive. They might be eaten by animals already. Who knows? I mean, you saw the picture I showed on the other post there of the polar bear. Who knows what's out there, where they are? This is all speculation. My guess, if they haven't been found by the end of today, is that they're already dead. There is no way these two clowns could be alive for 10 days running around in a forest. No food, no shelter, no whatever. No way. These guys are not Rambo, and Rambo was fictitious. All right, that's my opinion. But anyways, we will continue and see what other people have to say. One thing I want to note to you guys is I don't edit any of my videos. I want you guys to hear it all raw. I know like 99.9% of the videos on YouTube are all, cut up, edited perfectly, whatever. I don't do that because I want you guys to hear everything raw, all the mistakes that are made. That's the way I think a video should be made, not like a TV show, but this is just like an amateur video. So that's why I leave everything in, all the mistakes when I'm reading, when I'm saying or whatever else. If you guys like that or don't like it, again, let me know in the comments below. I appreciate all feedback, negative, positive, whatever it is. That's the only way I can make these better and get better as I go along. All right, so let's continue with this post, and then we'll call it a day once again as far as day 10 goes. This person says, before they became murderers, would merely being loners disqualify them for being an actual soldier? I'm not sure that becoming part of a socialized military is in and of itself evidence of strength of mind or character. Strength of mind to me does imply some ability to be an independent thinker and actor, not a follower. Reply, no, which is why I describe them as loner murderers, not loners. Being a member of the military and able to endure that rigors of basic training and getting along with a diverse group of people is an institutional setting does necessitate strength of mind and character. Of course, there are some people who are able to squeeze through despite having weak characters, and there are people who become twisted from the horror of war. But I'm not going to be sidetracked into an argument about whether the military is evil. The bottom line is these types fancy themselves to be tough soldiers, but don't even have what it takes to bring themselves to enlist or remain in for long. In such environments, who a person is quickly revealed. A comment from Lady L says, and I would wager that they would call the police, not burn vehicles and invade the law. Reply, if not, then it gives the impression that Canada is filled with crazy lawbreakers, which is not the case at all. But my desire to see a bit more information carefully managed is precisely to avoid these impressions, which don't help. For example, RCMP could say we have some information from cameras that show who might be on the Alaskan highway at those times, and we continue to use that information to identify suspects. K and B, the two bastards, are still suspects. That would be if there is, in fact, one camera at the south end of the route. If there's not a camera at the south end of the route, as some here have said there is, then the public can react by asking for more cameras, as happened in the Kenzie Loic murder. The public cannot ask the police to do its job better if the police pretend that everything is as good as it gets. Canadian Maid, thank you so much for this fascinating info. I had no idea, and I am a VI Canuck, I guess 6th. The Scream is really an awful painting for what it depicts. I didn't post that. Appreciate who did that as well, though. This is the one who was talking about the military and calling them loner murderers, not loners. I work in VA hospitals where those without this strength of mind end up, so I beg to differ. The mental health issues of military recruits are far higher than those of the general population, and data for that goes back for a century. So the military ejects people that don't fit its strength of mind rubric. But no one in the public is required to use the same rubric. The military is not evil, but neither is it a model of strong mental health qualities, my opinion only. I agree that 18, 19-year-olds with military pretensions are a hazard. I deal with them daily. I am waiting for Trooper to provide the link as he's the one who claimed it. I look and cannot find any info that is true. Trooper is a she. Sorry about delay. I am running on Sydney, New South Wales time. I misread the ABC report. My sincere apologies, equivalent to CBC, and at this time they are still considered suspects. Plus, they are considered fugitives, a connotation that carries a bit of weight as well. Fugitive imply a deliberate avoidance of law enforcement over a period of time. I need proof from the school or the government. Why would you trust an article in this case? Sorry, nobody called the Bear Clan Neighborhood Watch Group in Winnipeg out of the blue. It had never even operated outside Winnipeg before. It actively insinuated itself into this, and their leader, who was hundreds of miles away from York Landing, went straight to the press with his organization's sighting. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to figure out why he did that. As far as I'm concerned, it was irresponsible, although it got him out and his organization lots of publicity. It also put the RCMP in a position where it had no choice but to respond as it did. The Australian journalist who published a long piece today on this got to the bottom of what actually happened at York Landing. There is a lot of egg on a lot of faces over this, including the major Aboriginal organization that blessed it. The person that said, I need proof from the school or government. Why would you trust an article in this case? Canadian Maid said, I don't trust anything I've read in the media, and I have stated that on numerous occasions now. I was asked for the link, which was why I posted it. Well, if someone else drove by after the silly boys committed 3 murders, they would have just happened to come across 3 murdered people. Yes, those silly boys indeed. You reminded me of this McLean's article, the writer's opinion that society has a tendency on infantilizing young white men who commit murder. Word of the day, infantilizing. Okay, so that's the Bear Clan. Do you have the link to the piece? I'd love to read it. I think we're actually agreeing that the damaged relationship between the RCMP and Indigenous peoples is the root cause of what happened here. And now another reply. Everyone knows that the USA wants and gets all the juicy details before trial, while everyone in Canada is patient because the process is more important than rubbernecking. There has been a lot of information because this is a manhunt. As soon as there is an arrest, additional charges will be added, and then silence until preliminary hearing and trial. If they're up north in native land, let them go. It's the way she goes, the way of the north. If they're accepted by the elders, then they're likely innocent, otherwise bear food. And what does this have anything to do with the native girls or Robert Piston? Please enlighten us. They did not send the military or commit 1% of the resources as this flight of fancy. I keep seeing uninformed people bring up these 2 other subjects as though they should negate the search for these 2 young men. Give your head a shake. I live in the north. I think I'm quite informed. Okay, I don't think that really has anything to do with anything if you live up north. So what? But anyways, back to the person who was talking about work in the hospitals. Listen, let me make it as clear as possible. Over and over, we see young killers and mass murderers who fancy themselves to be cops or military, but they don't even have the ability or stability to enlist or join, or if they can manage that, to stay in long. Again, they fancy themselves entitled to an authority and respect they don't deserve and haven't worked for. They tend to feel entitled to it, but in reality, they tend to be sociopathic, cowardly, and disturbed wannabes. Deep down, they know this and they are enraged by it. Finally, there is a huge difference between someone broken from the ravages of war and someone too cowardly, inept, and weak to even try to enlist or to be able to get through basic training. And I never said that 18, 19-year-olds where military pretensions are a hazard. I said those who are wannabes who didn't even have what it takes to enlist can be, when they feel they're entitled to the honors without doing the work. Please don't put words in my mouth in order to start an ideological debate about the military. I'm not getting sucked into that. The U.S. Canada's version of the Miranda. What makes this case and this case only substantially different from the thousands and thousands of cases where charges are somewhat delayed or incredibly delayed. I don't see anything unique enough to cause a problem. Law enforcement in general in North America tends to be tight-lipped before an arrest, and in Canada continually until trial. That means nothing about the strength of the case or the possible outcome, in my opinion. It's the smart way to go. This might be the not last one yet. Sorry I missed this reply. I posted a link to an article stating that the last time someone saw B and his father, well, we know B is one of the bastards. Coincidentally enough, they both start with B. And his father together was at his graduation. I can find it again if you haven't seen it. All grade 12 students are invited to graduation ceremonies, and often they're held well before the end of the school year. That the father attended ceremonies in proof B successfully completed grade 12. Nobody is excluded from the ceremonies or otherwise identified as an outcast, unless they choose to be. It's the proof of the diploma that proves one graduated, not the ceremonies. Whether B graduated or not, as somebody already mentioned, only the school in the province of BC know for sure, because they hold the records. This is the one who was saying, if they're up north and native land, let them go. I live in the north. Okay. Here's a reply to that. I think you're a troll. Between the Trailer Park Boys references and the deliberate disinformation Ricky-isms, I really don't believe a person can claim these things. So that's it for this report. It sounds like people are getting feisty with one another, maybe getting frustrated. That's going to be it for day 10, the update on day 10. Again, guys, I appreciate all you guys being here, following this channel, subscribing, getting that bell notification icon hit. And again, give a thumbs up if you do like my content. I am trying to get better at it. I am fairly new YouTuber. I appreciate all you guys that did jump on board so far with me and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to set this one up and give this one out as a premiere. Maybe I'll start doing some lives. Let me know what you guys think of that as well. And again, guys, gals, everything in between, I really appreciate all you guys. And do give the comments, though, as to what you're thinking about this case as it's going along. Where are these guys? What do you think? What are your opinions? Let me know. Comments below. Let everybody know. Let's chat it up some more. Guys, I appreciate all yous. And gals, everything in between. But for now, I am done. Have a great day, evening, wherever you guys may be. Guys, gals, everything in between. I am out for now. Peace.